I've done a lot of sparkling wine blind tastings in the last few months, and I find them fascinating as the sparkling wine world is changing quickly. There are some sparkling wine producers, the well-established ones, that are able to dominate the market, and some of them have serious marketing budgets that help them build their reputation. On the other side, there are new producers focusing on quality and pushing the boundaries of the sparkling wine world to include regions that were previously not considered to be a prime sparkling terroir. These new players usually don't have the brand recognition and the negotiation power to reach the super premium segment where most of champagne is being sold and sell at much lower prices instead. That is of course nice for us as we are able to buy great but budget-friendly sparklers, well, as long as they're actually able to compete with champagne in terms of quality. This is why I asked Leon to buy sparkling wines from all around the world, champagne to maybe Chile, in order to compete in the ultimate blind tasting face-off for the sparkling crown. So let's go, or let's pop. So let's pop some corks. I actually had my team mask the Agraffe so that I can see anything about the wine. I mean, I know that they are all sparkling, but that's kind of it. I probably would have seen that they are sparkling. Well, anyways. I love that sound. Come on. Oh. Stay in there. So I don't know what the wines are. I don't know where they are from. I kind of know that there's one champagne in there. That's at least a strong guess of mine. And I know that one of the wines will be very expensive, likely the champagne. But the other ones, yeah, they're cheaper, but that's all I know. So let's start off with wine number 1. It is sparkling. So the intro was correct. We're not doing Chardonnays from all around the world. Kind of golden in color. There's a fine mousse there. I personally think that sparkling wines, when it comes to identifying their origin, are really, really difficult. Probably one of the most difficult category in a blind tasting. I mean, it's not that difficult to understand how the wine was made in terms of the production of it, but it's really difficult to taste the origin because it's a heavily produced product. You basically make a still sparkling wine that might have quite a lot of identity, but then you re-ferment it in bottle, keep it on the lees for a long time. And that changes the style of the wine quite significantly. And then it becomes kind of difficult to place it. I've been wrong in blind tasting when it comes to sparkling wine and their origins a lot of times. So yeah, be nice. So this actually has quite a lot of apple character, a little bit bruised apple. There's also some spice there. The yeastiness comes through quite strong. And there, like, you get this bouillon cube kind of flavor there. There's also like baked goods, brioche, baked bread flavors coming out of the glass. There's also this soy sauce character, which I often get from sparkling wines that were kept for a long time on the lees, on the dead yeast cells. I think this is a really strong start. I mean, the wine is intense, complex. It's a little bit edgy on the palate. There's a little bit of bitterness. The acidity is kind of harsh, but you usually want that in a sparkling wine. It's supposed to be lively and fresh and refreshing. So yeah, very nice. So I'm going to rate this 92 points. I think it is a really great sparkling wine. I don't have a clue whether this is the champagne. I mean, it could be the champagne, but yeah, I'm not sure yet. So let's move on to wine number 2. Pretty solid foam layer here. I mean, it's not going away quickly, that's for sure. Does that say anything about the wine's quality or the origin? No, not really. I mean, it tells you that it's a sparkling wine, but that's kind of it. Some of them foam more, some foam less. There are definitely reasons for that, but not necessarily reasons linked to quality. It is definitely an interesting wine. It's a little bit rougher. There's more bruised apple character. There's a little bit of rough yeastiness, reminding me of like rye bread. It's a little bit funky. The color is actually quite golden, quite a bit darker than the previous one. So this could suggest, well, it can depend on the grape varieties that were used, or it could suggest a long period on the lees. So this feels definitely like an old world wine. I don't think it's champagne. It doesn't taste like it doesn't taste like champagne. It's not as pristine as champagne usually is. I mean, there are obviously also some winemakers that are a little more hands-off, but this feels kind of wild, a little bit unprecise, but still very interesting. I'm missing a little bit of acidity and zing on the finish, and yeah, apart from that, I think this is quite exciting, quite interesting. Like I said, I don't think it's champagne. It could be one of the Cremants in France, so Cremant de Loire, Cremant de la Bourgogne, Cremant d'Alsace, Cremant de Jura. Well, difficult to pinpoint this, in my opinion. But it could also be from outside of France, to be honest. I really struggle here. Quality-wise, this is actually very good, but it's a little bit more hands-off, a little bit more funky, and therefore, well, doesn't have the precision on the texture. I don't mind a little bit of funk on the nose, but I like my sparkling wines to be like really precise, tight on the texture with good acidity, a little bit of grip, and the acidity is missing a bit here. So I'm going to rate this 90 points. Really good stuff. Not quite as good as the previous wine. So let's move on to wine number 3. Again, lots of foamy foam. This is a fascinating tasting. I find this very interesting, even though it's very challenging as well. But it's just really interesting to taste all those sparkling wines next to each other without really knowing what's inside the bag. Just trying to kind of catch those little indications of where the wine might be from. So this one feels a little bit riper. There's a little bit of orange zest notes, citrus, fruit, apple again. There's also a bit of rubber here. On the palate, there's quite a bit of creaminess, structure, good grip, and great freshness. I mean, the yeast aroma is certainly there. There's quite a bit of soy sauce flavor coming through as well. So a complex, really deep wine. So today, the black hoodie really pays off. I mean, you can see the color of the wine much better because I'm wearing black, right? So good choice. I'm not 100% sure again, but for me, I kind of have the feeling this might be a cava. So from Spain, northern Spain, producing great wines. I mean, there's also quite a lot of average cava coming out of Spain, but there's some really extraordinary ones, and they tend to be really cheap. So I don't think this is the super prime wine, but I think quality-wise, it is up there. So I'm going to rate this 92 points. I think it's delicious. So, well, this could be the champagne as well, but I just feel like this has a little bit more body and concentration, feels a little bit riper and warmer. And on top of that, it has this touch of rubberiness, especially in the beginning. Now it's kind of not there anymore, not as much at least. And I often associate rubber with cava. So here we go, wine number 4, still sparkling. Come on, listen to this. I love it. I should put that sound on to my phone and listen to it while I fall asleep at night. So this is actually quite a bit more fruit driven. I mean, the yeast flavor is there, but it's not as present. I would say it's a little bit more delicate. There's not super pronounced yeastiness. Interesting. On the palate, this is quite honey-y. It also feels a little bit sweeter. There's a little bit more RS, a little bit more residual sugar. I mean, this is a good wine, but it's certainly less edgy than the second one, and I don't think it's as high in terms of quality as all of the wines that I've tasted so far. But it's still very good. I mean, it's complex. There's good juiciness there. There's this kind of it's just not as it's not as complex in my opinion. This feels like it's from a cool climate. I mean, the acidity is quite tight, but the residual sugar, yeah, I mean, this is not a sweet wine. Sorry, but it has a higher dosage level than some of the previous wines. So I'm going to rate this 88 points. I think it is very good, but it's not quite at the same level as the others. So let's do wine number 5, Sparkly. Again. So this again is intense, quite complex. There's a little bit of lemon zest flavor coming through, pear apple character, a little bit of nuttiness, roasted nuts, and brioche. On the palate, this has nice bitterness, good freshness, and liveliness. It's quite complex. Great stuff. It feels like the acidity is a bit lower compared to some of the other ones, so it feels a little bit warmer and richer, and it has a long finish. So this again is really tricky. I think this feels kind of old world in style. It doesn't feel like it's French to me. It could be something from Italy or Spain, just because it's a little warmer, a little richer. It doesn't quite have the same verve and freshness as the best wines in the tasting. So I'm going to rate this 91 points. And I don't really know where it's from. If I'd had to guess, I'd say Spain. So it could be another cava, which is probably kind of unlikely, but yeah. So now let's taste wine number 6. The last wine. Whoa, feels like the glass is filled with foam. That's all there is, pretty much. Again, kind of golden in color, fine bubbles, good sound. Nice. I'm really struggling here. Usually I'm fairly confident in blind tastings. Sometimes I'm completely wrong, but in this one, I just kind of feel like I'm grasping for straws. I don't really know in most cases. So this is very nice. It feels like it's like there's apple character. It feels like the core of the apple, so quite fresh and vibrant. Yeah, good stuff. Spittoon splashback. That's the worst. I mean, I only use this spittoon, so it's not that big a deal. But have you ever been to a wine tasting where several people use the same spittoon and you get spittoon splashback? Believe me, you don't ever want to experience that. So this is quite elegant, fresh, fine, delicate. There is these fine fruit flavors, but there's also kind of nuttiness and brioche character, but it's very clean and precise. On the palate, this is also structured, grippy, fresh, lively, quite delicious. It's actually so polished that it kind of lacks a little bit of an excitement factor for me, but it's definitely really well made. So I'm going to rate this 91 points. I think it's very good, but I have no idea which one was the champagne after tasting all of them. So let's get back to the drawing board. I have to retaste them all in order to find the Goliath, the premium wine in this lineup. This reminds me of Leberwurst. What is it in English? I don't know. Liver sausage. Weird. So I'm going to stick to my 92 point rating for wine 1, but I actually don't think it's the champagne right now. Wine number 2 is still a little bit funky, but a little bit less so, I guess. Yes, wine number 2 is a delicious wine, but it feels a little bit wild. So I don't think it's probably from the Loire, from Jura. Could also be a little bit rough and wild, but really well made. Let's move on to wine number 3. I'm kind of going to stick to my notes here. I think this is very good, but it doesn't quite feel like champagne to me right now. So let's try 4. Yeah, this still feels like the lightest in the lineup. So the wine with not as much concentration, richness, and like leasiness on the palate. Again, I kind of feel like this is a 91 point wine. It's really well made. It just doesn't have the same depth as the 92 ones. So there's not a big difference, but there is a slight difference. Again, 91 points. Pretty good. So yeah, I think I have to make a decision here. And I know I said this was a cava early on, but I think it's actually the champagne, just in terms of quality. I mean, this feels like it was a long time on the lease. And it's the best wine, even though this is rated on the same level, but I think this is actually like a touch better than wine number 1. But this is difficult, and I'm by no means confident in my choice. I just kind of feel like it could be any of those wines, maybe apart from wine number 4. But yeah, this was like a tough tasting for me. Really difficult. I really struggled here. But now let's just have a look at the wines. Get them out of the bags. Wine number 1, I initially thought this might be champagne. It was really well made, really beautiful, very precise. And it is Trentodoc. So this is from Italy. It's Ferrari. I don't think they actually have anything to do with the cars, but maybe they do. I'm a bit ignorant there. But this was really, really good stuff. I'm going to dive into the prices as well in a minute after I revealed the wines, because only then I can actually look at the list of prices that Leon prepared. But I'm guessing that this isn't super expensive. Anyways, let's move on to wine number 2, which I thought was a beautiful wine, but a little bit more funky. And don't tell me this is like a funky champagne, but it is a funky, damn it! It is a funky champagne. It's Robert Moncuit. So this is actually a Grand Cru champagne, Les Chétillons Grand Cru from Les Mesnil-sur-Auger. It's extra brut, it's funky, it's pretty good, but it didn't win the tasting, and I'm pretty sure that this is expensive. I was fairly sure that this is made by like a funky winemaker somewhere in Jura maybe, or in the Loire, who's kind of doing great stuff, but really hands off. And that's what this felt like, and probably that's how they make this wine as well. Really great, but yeah. Let's move on to wine number 3. I initially said this is cava, then I said it's champagne, and it probably isn't now. So let's have a look at what it is. It's Griesel. So this is a German producer that has built a pretty amazing reputation for high quality sparkling wines over the last few years. And this is their Grand Cuvée Reserve Brut Nature 2014. And for me, this was the best wine in the tasting, so hats off to them. I'm actually going to list all of the wines below in the description, including the wine searcher link, so you can have a look at whether those wines are actually available in your markets. I'm not sure whether they are exporting everywhere, but amazing stuff. So now, let's move on to wine number 4, which probably maybe also didn't benefit from the fact that it came after my favorite wine in the tasting, but it was the weakest wine, in my opinion, in this lineup. And it was Cap Classique Cremant Blanc de Blanc from South Africa. So a South African sparkling wine. Yeah, I just didn't think it was quite at the same level as the other ones. I didn't think it was from South Africa, but I actually haven't tasted many South African sparkling wines. Sorry. You know, South Africa is still my weak spot. But yeah, it was good, but it wasn't on the same level as those 3 and those 2. So now wine number 5, and wine number 5 was pretty good. I really liked it. I didn't rate it as high as those 2, but I rated it 91 points. So let's see what it was. Izar-Leku. What's that? 2018 Izar-Leku Hondarribi Zuri from Spain. Really? Okay. I have no idea where this wine is from. It doesn't say cava on the label, so I'm guessing it's not a cava. But all those terms on the back label don't really tell me anything. I have no idea. But it was very good stuff. And wine number 6. Again, 91 points. Pretty good wine. What was it? So this is the Domaine de Marne Blanche Cremant du Jura Reserve. And yeah, it was very good. It was delicious. Great stuff. So now I have to check for the prices. All right, drum roll. Okay, surprisingly or not surprisingly, the champagne was the most expensive one. 120 euros. Not the best wine for me in this tasting. Sorry, champagne. but certainly the most expensive one. The next expensive one, so the second expensive one, was actually this wine, which is not something I had expected. I thought this might be fairly affordable. German sparkling wines tend to be fairly affordable, but it cost 65 euros. But considering that it was the best wine in the tasting, yeah, why not? So the Ferrari, which was for me on the same level almost as the Griesel, was actually a real bargain. 30 euros, which is a price that, yeah, that's really affordable and it's great quality. Next up, we had the Artadi Hondarribi Zuri, which was 30 euros. The Blanche was 25 euros. The Cremant, I don't know, from South Africa was 25 euros. And that's it. So I'm going to put all of that information again into the description. But yeah, what an eye-opening tasting. I don't know whether I'm just bad at blind tasting sparkling wines, but I found this very, very challenging. I mean, putting those wines into the origin was very challenging. It's clear that there is a lot of quality available from all around the world. I mean, there was no dud here. All of those wines performed really well. I also have to add that this was obviously the cheapest wine in the tasting, and it still performed fairly well in terms of ratings. I mean, together with this one, which was better. And yeah, I mean, I drink all of those wines. I loved them all. They were all quite beautiful. They didn't necessarily scream terroir at me, even though they are all terroir wines, but sometimes it's more difficult to sense that through the lens of winemaking. But yeah, I mean, well done, Ferrari. I think that this is just a delicious wine at a great price. And the Griesel sect, I mean, yeah, don't sleep on German sparkling wines, even though they might smell and taste like cava and or champagne to me. But who am I? You know. So thank you for watching. I hope you liked this video. If you did, then please like it down here. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Question of the day is, what is your favorite sparkling wine outside of champagne? Let me know down below. I hope I see you guys again very soon. And until then, I'm going to keep sparkling. Well, no, I'm going to stay thirsty, and I hope you're going to stay thirsty too.